Thank you so much for being here with me once again on another episode of A Legacy of Love, Un Legado de Amor, that is already here. You could watch me, obviously, on YouTube, and knowing that with Christ, it is well. And I have someone very special today, and we definitely have a lot of things in common as she shared her story with me, but now she will share it with you. I would want to invite Gwen with me Womack today, and we would love to know a little bit about yourself. Thank you for being here with me today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yes, I would love to know a little bit about you, and I know that my audience would love that as well.
Well, I'll start present and maybe kind of flow back and forward, but I am currently a native of Madisonville, Kentucky, by way of Charleston, West Virginia. I've been in Texas for 29 years. I moved here with my pastor, Bishop T.D. Jakes, along with 50 other families. I am married. We have four children. My oldest daughter is 52. And I have a son that would have been 50 in April, but he went home to be with the Lord as a result of diabetes. And so I have two other daughters. One lives in Houston and the other one is still in West Virginia. I have nine grandkids and great grandkids. But my husband and I have parented 226 female children in foster care. And that comes as a result of a mandate from God. And I say a mandate because I wasn't given an option. He said, "You're going to foster." And that came because I was a social worker for 30 years. In my profession, I am a professional psalmist and recording artist. I am currently an ordained elder at my church. I've been in ministry for almost 15 years, been singing since I could talk. Most of my experience has been in social work and training, development, and so forth. I've been in Texas 29 years. I've been involved in prison ministry for 40 years. And I'm an author of a serial memoir, four published books. The fifth book is should be out for publication in about 4 weeks. I'm also a licensed massage therapist of 21 years, and also a licensed belief therapist. And what that means is I was trained and certified to the Therapon Institute in Florida, but that concept of therapy is built on biblical principles. So I tried to go through the secular world, but I needed to talk about God and Jesus. And so finally somebody came up with that opportunity. And so the Lord opened the door for me to enroll, and I graduated with that. And I'm also a professional life coach. So I got a lot of stuff going on, and but God gives me the grace to do it. And I can't take any credit because the Bible tells me that my latter days will be greater than my former days. And I can truly attest to that because when God is in control, it doesn't matter how you start, it matters how you finish. And so I'm in this finishing stage and understanding that it's really a beginning rather than a finishing, because I think the things that we go through in life prepare us for the things that God has already laid out, because we're living in time where God is in eternity. He created time, so we're kind of marking time and trying to figure out why this happened or why did it have to happen, when God's saying, "I chose you. Consider it a privilege and an honor. I chose you for this because I knew you could handle it." And that was one of the things I asked God about my life, early life, was why did things have to be the way it was, or why did I have to be born at this particular time? And because some of the choices were mine, most of them were not. I think when you're young, it's really not your choice, it's just thoughts. And so we don't know how to regulate our thoughts, especially when the frontal cortex hasn't developed yet. And so we do all those things at that time, but depending on the purpose and the reason, sometimes it comes back to bite you. And depending on the DNA that God has allowed you to have, some people survive. And so I think it goes beyond survival for me because I endured the test and the assignment that God had given me, so much so when I asked him in earnest why I think we all approach God at some point with why me, why, and then God said you should consider it a privilege and an honor that I chose you. I chose you because I knew, one, you would stand the test of time. Number two, I knew you would tell about it. Number three, I knew that you would bring others out. And that kind of really kind of gave me a little holy boldness, almost a little arrogance, because the Lord said he chose me. And he chooses us for everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly, because the word of God tells us that it rains on the just as well as the unjust. And so early on, I'm the second oldest of seven children, and the oldest girl, four boys and three girls. I have an older brother. He took the route of educator. When he graduated from college, he went on to become a professor and teach and do all these great things. And he marched with Dr. King and Rosa Parks and all those people. And I was trying to be discovered in music. I was a singer in the family. On both sides, my mom sang and my dad's family sang, and I wanted to be discovered. I wanted to be the Phoebe Snow of somebody, or their next Aretha Franklin. So I sought out to find my place in life because I had zero self-esteem. I look back at pictures of me now and I think, man, if I only knew how cute I was back then. But I didn't know, because God doesn't allow you to see things that can dissuade you. So he kept blinders over my eyes. So the only thing I felt that I had going for me was my voice. And so even though, so I wanted to be discovered, I wanted to sing, but God knew, had I gone that route, like so many others, the Billie Holidays and all of those great people, when you are looking for love in all the wrong places, it can take you into, I'm so sorry. I forgot to turn my husband. That's my husband. Um, I apologize, but it can take you into places where you have no experience, and so I actually had the opportunity as a kid to learn that looking for love in all the wrong places can take you in places where there is no love. And so at an early age, I was molested. I think it was probably at 5, with a deacon in our church who my grandmother led to the Lord. And at 5 years old, you really don't have a voice, because I grew up in that era where you're told, speak only when you're spoken to, or what goes on in this house stays in this house, or, you know, be seen and not heard. As a girl, you really didn't talk, and we did not talk back. So when you were told not to speak, you learn, even if somebody's doing something wrong, you don't speak. And so the person that did the molestation was one of our, I guess we would consider him as the candy man. He was a neighborhood person who gave every kid candy. We all had candy, but nobody knew until I wrote my book that he was doing molesting all of the neighborhood kids. All my brothers, it was male, female, all of the kids. People had read my book and said, oh my gosh, it happened to me too. But at that age, I never told anybody. And when you have something that traumatic that happens to you at an early age, you don't know what to do with it. And I often ask myself, in many cases, why was the candy so important? And I think it was because I grew up in the 50s when things were segregated. And on one side, on my dad's side, they had a little bit more than what we had on my mother's side, because my grandfather and my grandmother divorced, and that left my mother just in a tizzy, because she was a daddy's girl, and he divorced and went to Indiana. So my grandmother became our world. And when my sister was 3 years old, she was hit in the head with a baseball bat when somebody slung their bat at 3 years old. And so she had some brain damage. And so my grandmother, who was cleaning houses at the time, was trying to take care of her, while my mother's trying to take care of the rest of us. And my grandmother in midstream had a stroke.
Mm.
And so I watched her have her second stroke, and call my mom in. And to kind of preface everything, my grandmother died in my mother's arms. And I think that was the day that my mother died emotionally. And because of that, it left me open to look for love. And because I was my grandma, I say I was my grandma's favorite. My brothers and sisters, they were younger, so they wouldn't know, but I think I was. But needless to say, that left us very vulnerable and left my mother vulnerable. I didn't know it at the time, but I saw her as a weak person. And I realize now she was so strong, so strong. But when we don't understand what weakness is based on strength, and strength comes from God. And so I didn't understand, and I just saw things. And so that kept me looking for bands. I would take off with, I remember when Patti LaBelle was Patti LaBelle and the Bluebells, they came to our town, and I would slip out of the back and go and peep into the clubs because I wanted to sing. And wherever the next band was going, I would take off and follow them. I was 12 years old. And my mother, when I got home, ooh, my mom did what moms do. So I had to prepare to take it, but I was willing to make the sacrifice because I felt that I needed to get out. And at 13, I did something probably unthinkable, but I took a record player out of Kroger's because my mom had one and you didn't dare touch your mother's record player. And I remember getting out of school that day and standing in Kroger's. It was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And this kind of segues into how things started. But I was mesmerized, and I just went in the store in the middle of the afternoon in front of God and everybody shopping, and took that record player out of the window and started to walk out the door. And when I did, the gentleman touched me on my shoulder, and then reality came back. Oh my God. I wasn't thinking about him, but I was like, my mom is going to kill me.
Yeah.
But instead, um, they called her, and she came and she just stood there. And it was kind of like, I think, another death. And it was like, wow. And so, of course, I had to go to court. And the judge, my mom said, I just don't know what I'm going to do. I had never been in any trouble. And I think she was expressing, I don't know how I'm going to handle this. What do I do? But he took it as, I can't handle this child. I don't know of any parent that really can't do what they need to do when it comes to their children. And so I think it was taken out of context. This was in 1966, back in 1966. And so they sent me away to what's called reform school. And they sent me away for 2 years for a $25 record player. And so I kind of grew up there. And when I came home, I was 15 and begged my mother because I was so embarrassed and shamed that I had gotten in trouble. I felt like I was a black sheep of the family because I thought everybody knew. But the weak mother that I thought covered for me, nobody never knew where I was. They never
Wow.
knew where I was. My brothers and sisters never knew where I was.
Wow.
And so from there, I went to Job Corps in Huntington, West Virginia. And when I got to Job Corps, I met the devil who took me into a world that I didn't know how to get out of.
When you say that you met the devil, what do you mean by that? And there's ladies here that are going to be listening to your story, and they're going to definitely connect with you because they've also been there. They've also been SA, and it's horrible.
It
But
is.
how uh, how did you find the Lord? I could see that you're so you shine. You have this glow and it's about God. And everyone that sees this, it's like, I've seen you and I could see that the Lord lives in you. How did you get there? Ladies need to know
Well,
how to get there with
through
your story.
I'll just summarize that into just an alphabetical short version. I met this young man that looking for love, still in all the wrong places. I was 16, he was 21, and he was my knight in shining armor, so I thought. I came from a small town, population 17,000, to bright lights, big city, and still looking to sing. But I learned later that he was married, he was a pimp. I didn't even know what a pimp was. In our town, we just had a town drunk. We never had anything like that. But because he became my brother, he was my uncle, he was my father, he was everything that represented what I needed that I had missed. And of course, when you've missed it, you don't know what it looks like when you get it. But I just thought it was all rolled up in one, and I fell head over heels in love with this person as much as you can love somebody at 16. Your first love is the dangerous love if you don't have guidance. if you don't have guidance. Because at that point, you have to remember, I'm living in a whole nother state, 6 hours away in school, but I'm on my own. And he took me into a world of drugs that lasted, and everything that goes on in that world for the next 15 years. Although after 7 years, he and I split up, but the lifestyle continued because I didn't know how to get out. And we always go in as women, a lot of times, if we have a pure heart for love and we fall in love with the wrong person, we have a way of saying, oh, I can fix him. I can bring him out. I can change him. So that becomes our mission. Love is not as important as changing him. And you can't change anybody that's on a mission to change you.
Yes.
And so he was on a mission to change me, and I didn't know it. And so was exposed to that, and which eventually led me being incarcerated twice. I was incarcerated the first time 4.5 years at the West Virginia State Prison for women, and the second time, and not involved with him, but incarcerated at the Alderston State Prison, federal prison, where I was in with the Manson girls and the lady who attempted to kill President Ford. And at that time, I think they had all those Haitians women that were detained here in America. So I was kind of thrown in with like these people that was like, oh my gosh. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to tell my family. My half of my family did not know where I was because I could not tell them. And I would go to church while I was there. And I knew my grandmother's God, but I didn't know God. I steered away from a lot of things, even though I did it all. I steered away from doing it a lot because I knew there was a hell.
Mm.
I had learned early there was a hell, and I did not want to go to hell. And I was terrified of hell, and I could hear my grandmother's words. And then the Lord began to speak to me, and I didn't know it was God. There's a way that seemeth right to men, but the end thereof is death. And so when I was finally released from prison, the 17th of March, 1982, I went to Charleston, West Virginia. I was there 3 hours and I got shot. I was
Oh,
shot in
wow.
my chest and by someone that I knew. And I had been gone for over a year, but my friend who I went to see had gotten saved. You know, she was a Christian. She begged me not to go out that night. I said, "Oh, I just want to go and see who's here because I've been gone so long." And I went out that night, and the person came to my friend's house because she was a mutual friend of both of ours, and she thought that I had taken from something from her that she later found.
Mm.
And when she went to wake up my friend, I went upstairs to beg her, please don't bring this here. And she turned and she shot me. And we kind of tussled over the gun, and the police were called. And I didn't tell the police who did it because I was thinking, this is not real. She didn't mean to do this. I know this person. And I'm protecting her while I'm bleeding from my chest. And
Mm.
so, and I told him I didn't know what happened, that some people did it, and they happened to look over and saw me and saw my gown with the bullet hole in it. And
Mm.
so they take me to the hospital, and I had to have emergency surgery, part of my bowel, because we tussled over the gun. I look back now, like on TV, we wrestled. God is merciful because I overpowered her with the gun, and I had it, and I guess I went insane for a moment, but I was clicking this gun in her face. God wouldn't let it go off because had it gone off, I would have probably been charged, and maybe she would have too. But for me in West Virginia, it would have been a three-time loser, which is life.
Mm.
So God didn't let the gun go off. And when I came back to reality in seconds, I gave her the gun back, and she put it to the back of my neck, and she said, "If you move, I'll blow your brains out." And I just told her, I said, "If you're going to kill me, you're going to have to kill me because I'm getting dressed. I'm going to the hospital." And she held the gun on the back of my neck
Oh, wow.
the entire time that I was getting dressed. And I just kept saying, "God, if this is it." And she just looked at me and she said, "I know you have my door keys." And I said, "I don't know what you're talking about." And with the gun on the back of my neck, my friend's son said, "The police are coming. You need to go." And she had a little holster. She put her gun in her holster and she walked out the door and she said, "I'll see you all later." And I
Wow. Your
was like,
life is
really?
a living testimony and
And
what
yeah,
God has done over you.
it was God because um when the police came, I told them I didn't know who did it because I'm still trying to protect her because I couldn't believe she did it. And when I get to the hospital, they did emergency surgery. They couldn't get the bullet out because it had traveled and lodged between my heart and my spine, and they had to take out part of my intestines. And they said that if they tried to get the bullet, it could move one way, paralyze me. It could do this, move this way. So I kept it in. It stayed in my body for 7 years.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
So when I left the hospital, the Lord spoke to me as clear as I hear me now, and He said, "If you go back out there, you'll never make it out again."
No,
And
you
I
were
knew
here
then,
for a big reason, for a
I
big
knew then
purpose.
it was over for me. And so the bullet stayed in 7 years, and then finally that night I was listening to Jimmy Swaggart on television. There's it's a whole story in there, but I was listening to him and I was getting ready to turn it off because I love Jimmy because he could sing music and just take me anywhere in glory. And I hadn't got saved at that moment. I was scared to go out, and I got ready to turn him off, and he said, "Don't touch that dial." So when God speaks, he can speak through a billboard sign. I look back now, he spoke through billboards, he spoke through songs, he spoke through people, he spoke through children, he spoke through anger, he spoke through everything. And it was always, and I've been doing prison ministry for 40 years now. And I tell women, I always ask them, the night you got caught, was there anything that said in your mind, something told me not to go? And they all raised their hand. Something told them not to go out. And that was the night that they went. That was the night that they were caught. But I said, God saved your life. Prison saved your life because had I kept going, I remember doing drugs. I learned how to inject my own drugs because I was scared of other people trying to kill me or hurt me or something. And I didn't know what I was doing. And I remember one thing, and then, if you have any questions, because I could go on and on and on and on. But I remember people telling me when I would do speed, I was afraid of drugs because I didn't want to die. So I wasn't a greedy drug addict. I would do just a little. But I remember I didn't like the feeling of the after effect of the drug. That's that sensation you get, which most people get, only lasts a minute. So when you're doing it, it's only a minute. It don't last long, but the destruction lasts a lifetime. And so I would want to come down, but I didn't know how. And so somebody said, if you shoot milk in your veins, homogenized milk, that'll bring you down. So I went to, back then it was Rite Aid, and bought milk. And
Wow.
I remember sitting there drawing milk in the syringe and putting it in my arm to come down off of the drugs.
Wow.
You do crazy things, but God's mercy endureth forever. So I've been living for the Lord now. It'll be 40 years in August of next year. And I love God. I believe that we all have a walk to walk because we're chosen to walk it. And if we walk it through obedience and guidance, we'll come out okay. And sometimes we are deterred, but it's not over till God says it's over, because my latter days are truly better than my former days. I'm living my best life. I'm married to a wonderful man. Um, God gave me the perfect man. I said I didn't want to be married to a preacher, and he happened to be a preacher. And I was like, you gave me everything but that. And so now we both are ministers, and we've been married 39 years. He's retiring on his birthday is Tuesday, tomorrow his
Yes,
birthday's tomorrow.
yes,
And
tomorrow.
so he's retiring from the Potter's House of 29 years on the 28th. So we do ministry together. I travel, I speak, I preach, I teach. And that's my story.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. And I think it's extremely powerful to know a little bit about your walking and how you came to Christ. And we always have that little girl inside of us that needs to hear those stories and to know that it is okay not to be okay, but it sure is not okay to stay in those dark places. And with the Lord,
Yes.
there's always hope and there's transformation, healing. And how would it not happen if He's a loving Father to all of us? I
Yes.
thank you for being here today.
Oh,
It
my
was
pleasure.
an
Thank
honor to
you.
have you. sharing your own walk, your own path, and it's okay not to be okay, as I said. But you all that are here listening to my podcast, A Legacy of Love, know that God loves you and He has a
Amen.
plan, He has a purpose over your life. And we need to first heal that little girl that's inside of us in order for us to be our best version. And our
Yes.
best version is in Christ, not in our past, not in our experiences, but in Christ. And we become whole. Thank you so much for coming here. And
Thank you
I
so
hope to
much for
see you
having me.
again, Gwen. Thank you so much.
May God bless you.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye bye.